All right. Real Sports Fan Podcast back for another episode. We are still in season 3, episode 20. Got a special edition here on a Sunday afternoon. Have 3 very powerful black women with me today that's going to discuss a lot of things that's going on in the world. A lot of things that's been happening in 2020, from COVID-19 to police brutality to even a little fun with entanglement. So we're gonna talk about a lot today. I appreciate these 3 women taking time out their schedules. It all came together kind of fast. So I appreciate them taking some time out their schedule and gracing me with their presence on today. So we appreciate everybody that's on live right now. Appreciate the people that are going to be coming on. Make sure you share this and so forth. So let's go ahead and get into this today, these topics today. And let me introduce who I have with me on today. First, I have what I like to mess with, the artist formerly known as Kevanya Young. Now she is Miss Key Moment. We got Key Moment in the building. What's up, Key? How you doing?
Hey guys, hi.
Appreciate you jumping on. Appreciate you. You know I gotta mess with you. Appreciate you jumping on and taking some time out to get with us and come on here and discuss a lot today. Also I have my sister here. We tried to get her on here last year, but some things happened. So happy to have her on here, Miss Amisha Thompson Murray. So what's Murray Thompson, I should say. What's up, baby? How you doing?
Good.
And happy birthday to Mom Dukes, celebrating 60 years today. Yeah, so make sure you tell Mom I say happy birthday. So I appreciate you jumping on here. Yeah. Appreciate you jumping on here. And then last but certainly not least, I have my wife, the one that keeps me straight, Miss Jamaica Baker Wilson. How you doing?
I'm good.
Good. Yeah, she been trying to get off the bench for a while. You know, she been wanting to get on here. I told her she had to wait her turn. So
why you have her on the bench?
Segment. Yeah, I had to have her at one time. Yeah, she was still the water girl at that time. She had to get the water, and so now she didn't progress. She good. But I appreciate y'all, I really do. Because in all seriousness, there's a lot of topics that you guys, that people need to hear from you. People need to hear from you. Not just black women, but all women, people. Period. 2020 has been one of those years between the deaths and between COVID and between police brutality and systemic racism and institutional racism, and the list goes on. So I appreciate you again. You 3, getting on here, and appreciate everybody that's watching this special edition of the Real Sports Fan Podcast with your boy Lance Wilson. So listen, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. We're not going to keep. I know you guys out there are trying to stay cool. It's about 100 degrees outside, so I know you're sitting in the AC hopefully, and or the drink of your choice, and hopefully watching this and commenting and sharing as we go forward. So we'll get into a lot of topics today. We're going to get into everything, like I said, that's been going on in the world, and we're going to try to hit a little bit of everything. Our first topic that we're going to discuss today is a topic called "How do you feel?" And sometimes you got to ask yourself, how do you feel yourself? Because some people don't ask, black women in particular, how they feel. You guys go throughout your day, your mothers, your wives, your girlfriends, you have your job that you go to, you have responsibilities at home, you still have other things that are going on outside of the realm, so sometimes we just need to ask you guys how you feel, and especially with everything that's been going on in the world. I really wanted to let this platform, give you guys this platform to really discuss a lot of the hot topics and things that I see people talk about on Facebook and in the world and on the news and things like that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the most y'all going to hear me talk. I promise. I'm really just going to be moderating this bad boy, and I'm going to let y'all 3, rock out and get a question. I'm just going to sit back and really enjoy as a fan. So we're going to start with Miss Key Moment. And Key, again, the question really says, how do you feel everything that's going on in the world that's been going on in 2020. How do you feel? How do you feel?
Overall, I'm overwhelmed with everything that's going on. I think it's the COVID. I've been working from home, teleworking since March 14th, and my boys haven't been to daycare since March 14th. So we've been in here trying to survive, basically, because I'm still having to do my job so I can pay the bills, but I'm also having to entertain them. And for the first half of COVID, I was a teacher. So that was just a big stress, a big block of the stress that I had trying to make sure that I was still doing my work for my job, and then still trying to make sure that my son's packets were completed and sent back to school. So that was overwhelming for me. And I think with just the scare of being, not being able to go out, or the fear of going out and possibly bringing COVID back home, whether it's just me going to the store, but also the need to go outside, not just to go to the store, but to have a break from my boys during the day for my own sanity, just like a 15-minute run to the grocery store. That was a relief for me, but I've just been overwhelmed. I commend any mom that is able to stay home and do this full time, like to be a full-time stay-at-home parent all day. I commend any woman that is able to do that, especially with more than one kid. It was, let me tell you, stressful. And I think with everything that's going on in the world, with the police brutality and all of that, that's even overwhelming. I myself I've never watched the videos of the brutality. I can't, because I know what I can handle. For me personally, I know what I just can't handle that type of stuff, that type of trauma. Yeah. And I don't think people understand what, secondhand trauma is. Like, you seeing it can be very traumatic for you and bring up things inside of you. So I don't watch that. I just, I read things about it, but I won't watch the videos and stuff like that. But overall, like I said, I've been overwhelmed, and, I don't know when that feeling is going to subside, because we don't know when any of this is going to end, really.
Yeah. I appreciate you, sharing that. And the one thing that stood out, or a couple of things stood out, but the one thing you said, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to have this platform, was overwhelmed. And a lot of people, a lot of women in particular, are feeling overwhelmed. Cause like you said, you had your 9-to-5 job, you got your 24/7 job, being a mom, and then, for part of that time, you also had to be the teacher, which is a whole nother thing that just got thrown on to a lot of parents, and then one thing you said I never thought about until you said it, but it's very true, that secondhand trauma. I didn't think about that, so you didn't watch any of the videos, George Floyd.
I've never watched any of the videos of any of the murders ever. I can't. That's just like, there's some movies that I've seen. I can only watch it once. Like Rosewood, that movie, Fruitville Station. I've only watched them once and will not watch them ever again.
Yeah. That's why she won't watch Fruitville Station or When They See Us, because of that. And me, I watched it. Like you said, one time was enough, but I didn't think about, like you said, some things if they're gonna affect you in a whole other type of way. Like you said, you best to not even, you're gonna hear about it, you best to not even watch. So that's smart, and I hope people, hopefully we don't see too many things like this happening, but hopefully people take heed to that, and that you don't have to watch everything that comes. You got to know what you can handle at the end of the day. You got to know what you can.
Guard your energy. Like, I think more more now than ever. We have to be more responsible, especially women, I think, have to be more responsible for the negative energy that you take because you expel so much energy and kind of just taking care of the world. So it's important not to like really even view things like that because it's very traumatic. Like when I was in college, it was during 9/11, and I laid there for 2 weeks just watching the towers fall, right, to the point where I can't even watch a news clip or even like any of the movies. I don't need to reenact something that you live. You don't need to reenact something that you live through. And I think that it's important to just really watch the people you're around and the things that you take into like your spirit. Just because I just think as women, specifically Black women, you're responsible for you put so much responsibility, I think, on yourself that you have too much that you dole out that you can't even really afford to take something like that in.
True. Very true. Great point. Great point. Miss Murray Thompson on the Western Shore. How you feeling over there? How's all this making you feel? Obviously, for one people that don't know, I mean, you have 4 kids, and your plate is full as it is. So how you been feeling? So far this year.
To piggyback off of what Key said, overwhelmed would sum it up as well. I'm a stay-at-home mom full time, so that aspect really didn't change
Kudos
much.
to you, Mish.
Yeah, kudos. Okay. Kudos to you.
So on top of that, just like she said, becoming a teacher, and then the age range of my 2 school age. One was in 11th grade, and then the other one was in the 5th grade. So the 11th grader pretty much was used to doing online stuff, so he could do his own thing. He was still, getting it done. I didn't have to hound him. Now, the 5th grader was a different story. So I had to literally sit down and do a schedule. Everybody downstairs by 8, eat your breakfast by 8:30, be in the classroom by 9, which was the kitchen table. So they did their work. They ate lunch. If you was done by 2 o'clock, you was free for the rest of the day. If not, then you keep doing it until you get finished. So that was the only way to have some sanity, because if not, it was all over the place. But then on top of that, I still had the twins running around. So I had them in the high chair at school time. We was doing flashcards, whatever the case may be, to keep some type of sanity going. But I had to come to a point where I'm like, this is too much. Everybody had additional chores. Tonight you going to cook, you going to wash the dishes. Just so, because everybody was just doing too much up until 5 in the morning, playing the game, all that kind of stuff. So we just had to get some type of sanity so everything would continue to run, as smooth as possible.
That's, I appreciate you saying that. And one of the things you said is and piggybacking off of you and what Keith said and even what Mika said is finding some sort of sanity. Like you said, no matter what you got to do, if I got to run to the store for 15 minutes and run into the grocery store and just, going to the grocery store and just doing some things I'm used to doing. If I'm going to get sanity that way, I know Keith sometimes she walks in the morning if I got to walk. Whatever I got to do, but also, Mish, one thing you said, which is, and let me ask you, do you find yourself having to delegate more to Zay since he's older, or to help you out, because you're right. I seen you, during that time, and I chuckled because I see you had the girls up trying to feed them. You had the flashcards with them. You had Zay working, LC work, so, did you have to delegate more during that time?
They pretty much know like their set chores, but outside of that, they just kind of pitch in when needed, with the girls. But they know their set chores, which days they have to clean their bathroom, or they know the trash goes out every day, this, that, and the third. So it's pretty much, I got to keep the train rolling, because if not, it's too much chaos and I can't handle it. So everybody knows what they're supposed to do.
Well, we salute you. Like you said, being a stay, people think it's before all this. A lot of people might say they want to do it, but hey, I think a lot of people after this don't stay at home mom. They say they want to stay at home, one more work. Trust me, it ain't what you think it is, and they found out.
It's not
they found out that they ain't sexy. Yeah, they found out that they ain't sexy. So we salute you, sis.
No,
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. So I appreciate you sharing that. And Mr. Mika, how do you feel? I know a lot of this. For the people out there, how do you feel? Everything going on.
The same overwhelmed, and then that to me that has manifested itself in just being like really tired. physically tired, emotionally tired. Like for me, it's like because I've become an internet troll, right? Like I'm hopping on statuses of people I never met. I'm calling people out in inboxes. Like I feel like it's like the thing I hated. But like this moment, and because the work I do, it's really put me in a position to be more vocal, and so that is taking a lot out of me, like just physically, like being more vocal and caring a lot less about how people take what I say. Because I do think that prior to like this George Floyd moment that we're in now, I would censor the things that I would say, trying to guard the feelings of people who I cared about. And now we're in a moment where I care a lot less. So between my troll-like behavior and like just the work I do, we have a 4-year-old who's been out of daycare since the end of March. Both of us are at home. We only got the one. She's like 4, but we only got the one. So it's not nearly the type of pressure that you all have to deal with. But just even, we're not going to give her like preschool structure all day because she's 4, right? Like, so, you get a half an hour. But then you got to entertain her the rest of the day. But like, how do you do that when you both have a 1:30 conference call every Tuesday? I work until 3:30 in the morning a lot of nights because for a lot of women, a lot of mothers, that is your only time by yourself and to yourself and with yourself. And so that's what I do. So even like, it's like the physical fatigue, it's the mental and emotional fatigue. It's why I can't watch videos like
George Floyd. Yeah.
I can't watch the movie, the miniseries When They See Us. I'm like, oh, can we watch something happy? Can we watch like a comedy?
A comedy.
Can we watch? Like can we watch something that I'm gonna laugh at? Like I'm not in the mood for that. You know what I'm saying? And so it's really taking stock of what we internalize, because then everything you bring in, you give out in some way. So it's really kind of being mindful of that, and that's just tired, and that just makes you like weak, right? And so it's just at some point, I do know at some point I'm gonna buckle under the self-imposed pressure. All of us probably will, just a woman. So like, how do you try to mitigate that, and how do you try to, I guess, stop it before it starts? And I do think that is the plight of the Black woman, right? Like we are the mules of the society. Like we are, don't worry, I got it. So it's like, how do you even deal with that when that's all you know? Like that's all I grew up with. I grew up in a house with 3 generations of women, and I only know women to do everything. So it's like, how do you undo that,
Yeah.
I think for me, I just feel like as Black women, we should start holding other people accountable for things in our lives and their lives. So while my husband and I were together, like there was no, I'm not cooking because I'm the woman. I'm a cook because we need to eat, but you got to cook as well. I feel like it's those things that we have to hold other people accountable instead of trying to put everything on our plate and just doing it ourselves. Like cleaning up. Yep, I want you to help me clean up. Yep, I want you to take care of these kids while I go do X, Y, and Z. Yes, you need to be present. Just because you're the man doesn't mean you get to go to work, come home, and sit down, because I go to work as well, and then I gotta come home. I'm not coming home to do everything by myself. I feel like those are the things that we need to start putting in place in our lives, and teaching our kids too, because I want my daughter to know that, when she's married and she has kids, that just because she is the mother and she is the woman, you're not supposed to do everything. That's just not how life is supposed to be. And I feel like it is the generations before us that continue to hold that over us. Like, okay, you're the mom. Well, you're supposed to take care of the kid. Okay, like, well, he's the dad too. He could take care of the kid. Like when I don't have my boys, it's always, well, where's the kids? With his dad, with their dad. Like, he's a responsible adult. We had these kids. They don't have to be attached to my hip all the time. They can go with their dad. I feel like that's something that we need to start to teach ourselves and future generations.
I agree. I don't know if Amisha want to jump in, but just off what you were saying, we just had a conversation like that maybe yesterday, just about, gender roles. Some people still are on this gender role thing, and like you said, just because you're the woman don't mean you gotta cook. Just because I'm a man don't mean I gotta cut the grass.
Right,
but like you said, society and when we had that, those traditional, gender roles, and you make a great point about when someone sees you, the first thing they say is, "Where the boys at?" or "Where the kids at?" You get that, but for the male, and I will say, because we don't get that like the mothers get it. If somebody say, they don't automatically say, "Where's Bella?" But for women, y'all do get that. So I will say that. But Mika's cousin, one of his questions, or kind of just a statement he put on Facebook, was sanity versus structure. And I think what he was saying was that to help the sanity during a time like this, you got to make sure your structure is where it had to be. And I know a lot of people probably had to change their structure and how they did things, during this pandemic and everything that's been going on. So, so cool.
Well, I know my structure went out the house, went out the door. But go ahead, Misha.
As far as the gender roles, like, I can remember when Zayden was little, he already loved cooking. So I wanted to get him a kitchen set. Everybody like, oh, why would you get a boy a kitchen set? This, that, and the third. So we went and found a green one, with like the wood look to it. And he would cook. He would grill. And to this day, since he was like 10 years old, this boy can burn in the kitchen, like with no help at all. So that's to show him you don't need a woman to cook for you. You can survive on your own. You can cook. You can make stuff from scratch. You can do whatever you need to do to survive on your own. And then when you do get married, your wife may have to work late or just don't feel like it today. You can cook a whole meal, not a microwave meal.
Right.
So like I do impose all of that. You learn how to clean the bathroom. You know how to vacuum, wash dishes without the dishwasher, the whole nine. Like, you're going to live just like you have your mama around, but on your own.
I bought Royal a kitchen too, Misha. I bought him one too, and a lot of people were like, "Why did you buy him a kitchen?" Because he wants to. I bought him a kitchen and a vacuum. He got to learn how to do it.
Yeah.
That is a great key, and Misha, that is a great segue into the next topic, which is raising young Black men. Obviously, Key's boys are younger than Misha's and Mika's. Mika's is grown now, but you still, no matter how grown they get, you still are going to love them, care for them, worry. As I know, as my mother, I'm the only child. I'm 35. She's still worried where I'm at. So with everything going on in the world, you're still gonna worry. But I know it's now an extra sense of that. So, Lamisha, just starting with you, just tell me, raising, and you kind of already, started to talk about, and that's good, but raising young Black men, is there anything different that you've had to tell your boys, particularly now, than what you had to even last year, or just anything you want to share about things that you've been doing, as far as raising, young black boys that are growing into young Black men?
Well, as far as Zayden, because he's older, of course I have to have a different conversation with him with things that are going on now than I do with Toby. With Zayden, it's more so because he's now at the age where he's going out with his friends by himself. They're going out in the car, without adults with them. So, yes, I worry like crazy, but he's been told, you should choose your friends wisely. Don't hang with people that you know are going to get you in trouble. Don't do things that you know are going to get you in trouble. I don't know if, many people are familiar, but one of his people on his team from school recently was arrested for like murder. So I'm like, this is a kid that we looked at as pretty quiet kid, wouldn't get into that type of trouble. But I'm like, you have to use discernment when you're around people, certain situations, don't put yourself in a position to get into that type of trouble. So when he goes out, he knows to keep in touch with me. If your location changes, I need to know where you're going. because anything can happen. And I want to be able to say, no, he was at such and such place, or no, he was here, or he was there. He knows if he gets pulled over, he's driving now, how to react when the police pull him over. His dad's a police officer. He knows to put his registration and his license in between his hands and put him up on the steering wheel. You're not reaching for anything. You're not giving him a reason, to do anything or think that you're a threat. He knows not to talk back. Yeah, you might be considered a punk or whatever. No, you do what you need to do to survive, and then we'll handle the rest when you get home. So it's like those type of conversations that need to be had, and that, you just can't be out here acting all wild and crazy, because at the end of the day, you're a threat.
That's I tell you, you said a lot there, and I appreciate you even, talking about, the conversation you've had with him, while driving, while with friends, the people he's around, and then also, with your husband being a cop, has they or Lord Toby, have they had any sort of or questions, pertaining to the whole police brutality, thing that's been going on? I hate to call it a thing, but the police brutality that's been going on. Have they had any extra questions for you with their dad being a cop? Have they been more worried about him? Or before we move on, can you touch on any part about that? Because you're kind of unique, in that situation.
They get more concerned about him when he leaves to go to work, like, what's going to happen, and, dealing with the protests being right in DC. So it's like little Toby calls all the time. Dad, you okay? What time you getting off? What time you coming home?
Yeah.
And like Zayden will ask questions like, what type of protests were down there today? How was your day? That type of thing. But we also ask them questions because we want to pull from them or know what they're thinking, or, what kind of fears they may have, going to bed at night. Like, is my dad going to be okay? Or, are all police bad? This type of thing. But Zayden wants to go to school for criminal justice and be a police officer because he wants to make a difference. So
that's what's up.
I can't fault them for that. But we just have conversations, dinner table conversations, just to see where their minds are, what they're thinking, and what their thought process is with everything that's going on, and making sure it's not weighing too heavy on them.
I appreciate that, and I'm glad that one thing that you guys do is that you ask them questions too. It's one thing for the kids to ask, but sometimes you got to pull out of them what what they may want to ask, and ask them how they feel. So I think that'll go a long way. Understanding how kids are feeling with everything going on. Because like I said, as much as we've been in the house, they've been in the house too. And they've been looking at pulling up all these videos, or reading comments and different things as well. So we got to protect them, as well. So Misha, I appreciate you, sharing that as well. We'll go to Damika. Your situation is a little different, but as far as your son, what thoughts and conversations have you had with him?
See, my situation is much more unique. I had, thankfully, a village to help raise Tavion, and so those difficult conversations, I guess, in his younger age were had with Tish and Dwight. But recently, with everything that's happening, and I'm thinking that him saying how vocal I am, he did ask a few weeks ago, like, why now? Like, why now are things escalating to this point? Like, why now are people protesting and rioting? So Tay will be 21 in September. So it is a much different kind of world for him than it is for younger Black boys. But I think for his generation, and that he was born in 99, it's normalized to see a Black person, Black bodies assaulted and killed by authority figures, because it's been recorded. In the past 20 years, it's seen body cams and cell phone cams and things like that. And so it is what is it about this moment that's made everyone so triggered, and that's made everyone so kind of hot. And so it's difficult in explaining. It was difficult in explaining to him that it's a tipping point. And, it's hard to kind of go through 400 years of mistreatment, because this is really the culmination of all of that, and it's happening now. So I can't imagine being someone in their teens or early 20s being a Black male, having to live in this moment and trying to reconcile your own feelings. Like, I thought this was regular. Like, I already know, like, this is the behavior, this is the standard operating procedure for when the cop rolls up on you. So it's so normal to them. And so I can't imagine that kind of level of PTSD that those kids are having to kind of go through or even to deal with. But I am encouraged that he asked the questions. I know he asked the questions of Tish and of the white, and you know what I'm saying, of all of the parental figures in his life. And so I said all that to say, like, your kids are much smaller, and so those are completely different types of, the conversations that you have to be handled with kid gloves. But I definitely think that for all of us, it's an importance on being honest with kids, and that now's not the time to sugarcoat anything really about the moment that we're living in right now.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And isn't it crazy though? Before we go to the key, isn't it crazy though? And one thing you said was it's normalized now. In the last 20 years, because we, like I said, we have the ability to record. And don't get me wrong, thank God we have that ability now, because a lot of things, we didn't see these things, we wouldn't know they were going on.
Right.
But it's crazy that it's so normal. That they see these things and it's like, oh, well, another about, but. And that's what we're hoping to change, through these conversations and everything,
I remember when I was in middle school, high school, that the only kind of reference you had about police brutality really in being recorded, outside of obviously the civil rights movement, was Rodney King. Like, that was really your only reference.
Yep.
Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
But there literally are so many references that I can't even name them all.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many names to name and references to point out that you don't even know them all. You don't even know them all. And I just think, just think of that shift in 20 years. I mean, that's a generation of people.
Yeah.
That is what they have to deal with. And then you add on top of that the effects of like COVID disproportionately affecting our community. Kids being out of school. Like, our daughter starts pre-K this year. Like, you're going into like this moment of uncertainty. I mean, for us as adults, it's difficult, but we have a reference point. We have a reference of times that were different. Like, this is what their moment is. This is their reality. So I just couldn't imagine living and kind of growing, being young in a time like this.
Yeah, I get it. Key, you want to add? I know you got two magnificent young boys that keep me laughing all the time. So this talk about raising those two, and I know like Mika said, it's kind of with kid gloves, but just talk about that for me.
My boys they're 5 and 3, so they aren't aware of anything that's going on. They're into watching stuff on YouTube and playing their video games, so they're oblivious to it all. And so I don't know when actually it'll be the right time to have a conversation with them about it. The only time that we've had to bring up race or anything or the color of our skin is, Royal wanting to know why everybody's a different color. Like, that's about it. He's lighter. Royal's lighter than the rest of us, and basically wanting to know why. So, just explaining to him that, we come in all different shades. But I guess when the time is right, I'll have to have that conversation with them, an open conversation. I feel like, I'm in a position, and I feel like we all are in a position to have those conversations about race relations and things, police brutality and things with our kids now, because I don't feel like those conversations were had with us when we were their age or as teenagers. I feel like, I don't know, that we were basically taught that, this is what it is. And we feel like, our generation feels like this is not how it's going to be. We don't have to deal with it. You guys dealt with it. We're going to speak out about it. And I want my kids to be able to speak out about things as well.
Yeah, you hit on some great points as well, Key. And one thing that stuck out to me when you were saying what we were taught, as kids, and you're right, because I was trying to think back. I don't remember having those conversations, and I always was under assumption that, and we know, don't get me wrong, because, Lamisha's married to one, there's some great police officers, and there's not so great of police officers. But when I was young, I was under assumption that all cops were great. All cops are good. So if you got pulled over for a reason. Now that's not the case. So like you said, and just to to give you some clarity or confidence. When it's time to have those conversations, you'll know. Like you said, right now ain't the time, but you'll know, when the time is right. And I'm thankful for Bella. She'll be 5 in November. That she's the same way. She don't know nothing going on. She thinks she's home on vacation all these months. You know what I mean? We just put her back in daycare for a couple of weeks ago, just to get her back in the swing of things before K4 starts. But I'm glad she's oblivious, because, like I said, she just thinks it's vacation. She's home every day. She's chilling, having a good time. I know the boys are the same way. So
they try to go Ocean City during the day. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
They don't know you work. They don't know you working and trying to hold down the house and trying to do all that. So, but these are good conversation to have. So I appreciate that. Before we get to the next topic, again, Real Sports Fan Podcast, Season 3, Episode 20. Got the ladies here with me, Miss Kivanya Moment, Miss Lamisha Murray Thompson, Mr. Mika, Mr. Wilson. Just appreciate y'all hopping on. Got a lot of people out there on the live feed. Appreciate everybody. Everybody's been sharing and liking it. Comment, keep it coming, keep sharing. We appreciate y'all. So as we segue into the next topic, one quote I want to read is from someone that I did a lot of book reports on, and I looked up to a lot when I was younger, and I still look at a lot of stuff he does, which was Malcolm X. And in 1962, Malcolm X said, "The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman." And that's what he said in 1962. And in 2020, it's still prominent, with a lot that's going on. Where obviously we're still waiting on the Breonna Taylor killers to be locked up and tried, and everything else that's been going on in the world. And even with you guys' personal stories, that can go to y'all a lot about y'all own personal journeys. But this next topic, we're going to get into the woman's voice, and you're just going to let your voice be heard on whatever comes to mind. Maybe it's a situation that you had happen in your life or in the past, or maybe it's a situation that's currently going on. But I just want you guys to share what comes to heart. We'll let Mika start. I know she's got a notepad of stuff over here, so we'll let her start as far as with the woman's voice. Go ahead.
Well, I think. Okay. Did you forward the phone?
No, the phone.
I've shared my story. Well, this kind of whole moment that we're in. For me, it's like.
Sorry, guys, that's my dryer.
Everybody wash clothes on Sunday, trust it. We know it's Sunday wash clothes day.
I feel like we're like in in one way we're in a lemonade moment. Like we've got nothing but lemons, and so like if you don't make something good out of this situation or this kind of time where then you wasted your time. I don't necessarily mean like you have to start a business. I see people say that like if you didn't start a business in this time, then you ain't doing nothing.
Yeah, I know.
I do think that it has been a time to unpack a lot of things that have happened in our lives that we didn't realize were either racist or discriminatory or traumatic or whatever. And so, like, how many years ago? Like 10 years ago, maybe? 9.
About 9 or 10.
I had like a tumor in my nose that started inside of my nose, really small. Went to the doctor, white male doctor. He was like, "Oh, we'll schedule you for 6 months from now." And in that time, and I'm like, "All right, cool," because I didn't know no better. You are a doctor. Like, who am I to question, your judgment and authority? And so he's telling me, like, "Oh, it's fine. Even though it has a healthy blood source, you'll be fine." And in that time, the tumor grew out of my nose. And, like, essentially my nose was giving birth to a baby. Like, it was huge.
She's in a medical book somewhere. We haven't seen. Yeah.
It grew out of my nose, and it got to the point where I couldn't sleep and I couldn't lay down, and I had to sit up for, like, days. And it wasn't until, I still couldn't get in, and it wasn't until my mother-in-law, who is relentless, if no one knows her,
relentless,
that she's relentless, called, and got me in. And when he saw me, he was like, "Oh, wow, you wanted to take a picture of this and put you in a medical journal. It can't, blah, 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 blah. But it's like it took for me to have an advocate in order to even get the kind of basic, what should be the basic right, right? Like a human is to be listened to about what hurts them when they're talking to a doctor. Like, to me, that's basic. That's a basic right. And so I feel like that is just like a microcosm of what women, Black women specifically, deal with not being listened to about the things that hurt them, whether it's physical or mental. The number of times that I've seen people of color, specifically women, drop hints about their mental health, and it gets left off or it gets ignored, and then, it's tears and GoFundMe when this person kills themselves. So it's like we're not paying attention to the very things that are in our faces because of who it's coming from. And I'm like, how can this group of people, Black women, who've offered so much to the world and to society and to their race and to their family, not be listened to when it comes to the very basic things I heard.
Basic.
Period. And so it hadn't been, I think, until now that I realized, like, damn, like that ain't normal. Like that, like I pass it off like, oh, maybe he didn't know it was gonna be that bad. And then I have a friend who almost died in childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
So it's ongoing. And then when you see the number of Black women who die just like giving birth, it ain't easy. Like, we know it's not easy, but should it kill you in 2020?
No.
And so the fact that it's killing us and it's not really killing other pregnant women at the same rate is alarming. But like what's next other than like no one believes in Black women? All right, so what's next? You know what I'm saying? Like I'm all in the what's next. I don't like to complain or bring things up unless the next thing is a suggestion. You know what I'm saying? Or there's some sort of action to get things changed. And I feel like opening up this conversation, or even talking about and acknowledging the things in our lives that we may have ignored, like, oh, it's not the doctor's fault that he overbooked, but sent me home. Like, that's fine. Like, don't dismiss those things. Call people out on when you're being mistreated. And so, like, I don't remember the exact quote from Malcolm X, but there's a ton of quotes where it's like, Black women got it. We're the mules of society. Put anything on our back, we're going to carry it for you. That's just who we are, right? We're feeding and clothing and providing emotional support, making deposits, and ain't nobody depositing
into us.
And so the mere fact that we are even standing or sitting or whatever is just, to me, a minor miracle. Like, and this moment has really showed it to me. Not that I've done anything personally to have rectified things in my own life, because I still find myself taking them on, but maybe this conversation will help.
It'll help somebody, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to go next? Key, Misha? So, as far as just something you want to share, or you want to just piggyback off of what Mika was saying?
I can piggyback off of. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
What
We're probably about to
just
talk
a
about
little
the same
bit.
things, Misha.
When I went in to have the twins initially, I had went in. They had started my IV, like waiting to be induced. Everything was set to go down that day. My mom was there. Toby was there. The nurse comes in and was like, "Okay, we'll be back. To get everything going and start your induction shortly." Like I said, IV set and everything. 2 hours passed, and I was like, how long did she say it was going to be before she came back? So she goes out there and was like, can we get some help? We want to know when everything going to get started. They come back in and say, we have bad news. We're going to have to send you home. We don't have enough nurses on staff today. Mind you, this date was scheduled like a month in advance. So, one, why didn't you have enough nurses on staff? Two, when were you going to tell us? Like, we've been here since 6 a.m. It's now going on around 11 or 12 noon. And you're just coming in to tell me, oh, we don't have enough nurses on staff. So they took my IV out, brought my clothes back, and sent me on my merry old way. So my mom was like, so what if she walks out in the parking lot and goes into labor? Like, what'll happen? Oh, we'll have to deal with it because it's an emergency. So you can't deliver now because you're short staffed. So whoever you were going to call in, if it's an emergency, you can't call them in now.
Right.
No. So long story short, I had to wait 3 more days to go back when they had enough nurses on staff to be induced to have the girls. So that goes to say, like, we need to better advocate for ourselves. And yes, they do treat us like the bottom of the barrel sometimes. Like, I was too distraught and already tired, out of breath, and the whole nine to really deal with it. But like, my whole day was crushed. Toby didn't know what to say to me. My mom didn't know what to say to me. Like, I'm going in expecting to have 2 babies, and you send me all the way home because you're short staffed. Like, I guarantee you it would have been a different story if it was somebody else. So, yeah.
And you're correct. And you are correct. You ain't got to say, but I guarantee it would be too a different story. Yep, they would have put Karen in that room, and she would have had them twins that day. It would have been the
day.
So it'd been that day. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing that, Mies. Key?
Yeah, mine's it's similar. With my last son, it was my 3rd birth, so I know my body. I know when I'm about to be in labor. Maybe the first time I gave birth, I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I was going to the hospital a lot.
Right.
But with my 3rd one, I stayed home. I let my husband go to work. I was counting contractions. I was doing all of that. So when they got closer and closer, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go. So I drove myself there. And I get there, and the doctor's like, she's like, how far are they apart? So I tell her. She was like, that's not close enough. When's the last time you drank some water? I'm like, I don't know, earlier when I first got up. She was like, well, maybe you're dehydrated. And they checked my blood pressure. They did all of this, gave me apple juice. I was like, no, I'm not. I can't. I'm not ready to go home. I can't. She was like, okay, well, we'll check you. Check my cervix, 5 centimeters. I'm like, ma'am, this is my 3rd birth. I know my body. Like, you guys would have sent me home had I not been like, I'm in labor. I know my body. You did nothing. Tried to tell me that I was dehydrated. No, ma'am. No. So I stayed. I gave birth that day. But what would have happened if I went home? And I listened. Yeah, I went home and drank some more water. Shit, gave birth from a damn car probably. I don't know.
That happened to me.
Yeah.
She was sent home. She was sent home from the hospital and had her baby at home. So she was sent home to the baby that day.
That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A long time. Yeah. A couple years. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, is it Shannon? Yeah. But it's funny, and Key, that whoever they was, a nurse or I don't know where you were, but they definitely had to. I know I've seen this, had to write one quote. They had to write one, because one thing about you ain't taking no for an answer. So
no,
they might have somebody. Yeah, if it was somebody else, they might have went home. But I know you weren't going. But that's good though, because and I'm glad we can laugh about it. But it is things that has to stop, because I've seen it a lot too. Just like Mika was saying with a friend of ours that she almost she actually shared that story a couple weeks ago. She almost passed away and things like that, because we can't take no for an answer. Mm-hmm. And so many times you guys go in, whether it's a doctor's office, you see it there, on your job, you see different things of racism there, and this all comes back to it is racism. It all comes back to that. Some people are like, oh no, the doctor, they just doing their job. No. Because again, if it was someone different or someone that had a little bit more money, mm-hmm. it would have been a different story. And like Amisha said, if she had the twins in the parking lot, or getting ready in the parking lot, they would have called whoever, rushed her in there, and did whatever they had to do. So we see this so many times. So, and that's why I wanted to call this segment the woman's voice, because the Black woman's voice, because you guys have a voice, and it has to be heard even more. It needs to be heard even more, because you all have different journeys and different personal experiences that you all share. Just now, all these have been birth experiences, or in the hospital, or things that's happened that almost tried to take you out. So I appreciate all y'all sharing and being very transparent. And I know for sure that definitely gonna help somebody.
I would like to talk to nurses about is mm-hmm. how surprised they are when the Black woman comes in, gives birth, and their baby doesn't test positive for anything. Like, how surprised are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you expect the Black baby to come in to be positive for weed, alcohol, heroin, anything? Like, how surprised are you? So then how surprised are you when the white baby is born and it's testing positive for everything? Like, how surprised are you
Good
guys?
conversation. No, I never thought about it. That's a great point. Yeah, that is good. That is good. That's a great point.
Where y'all at, nurses?
Yeah, where the nurses at? They on Facebook? Where the nurse? I don't see them on here yet, but nah, that's true though. That in all actuality, that's very true. It is a lot of differences that you can see in the doctor's office and the hospitals between the different races. I mean, let's just be real. I mean, it just is what it is. But we do, the Black women, I'm saying, y'all, I should say, need to, continue to, have that voice. And I've seen so many more women talk about that even more about their experiences in the hospitals and the doctor's office. So hopefully the nurses and the doctors and people are paying attention, to these things,
And just in general, I think John Lewis said it best. Like, if you
R.P. John Lewis, man.
Say something. Like, I'm an advocate for myself, but I want somebody to ride with me too. Like, I'm gonna go hard for you. Like, if I see something ain't right, ride for me. You know what I'm saying? And nurses, it goes like y'all have a duty to like step in and say, she says she's about to give birth. She's dilated 5 centimeters. Why would we send her home? Like, someone else needs to help us out, help us along, the same way that Lanisha's mom did, questioning, like, all right, y'all was going to bring somebody in and she dropped this load in this parking lot. All right, so just like my mother-in-law did, relentlessly, calling. I wish it didn't take such a lift, but not like all these types of institutional and systemic changes, they're not going to come on just the backs of the people that they are most affecting, right? Like, they are most oppressing. So, like, yeah, this is mostly affecting Black women, but we can't change this by ourselves. Like, this is a system within a system. And so, like, we need people to be our advocates, like, ride with it, too.
I agree. And let me ask you guys this before we move on to another topic that'll probably make more people laugh and what we've been talking about. But these are some very good conversations. But in the workplace, and I know Lamisha is a stay-at-home mom, but she still has been in the workplace and she has seen this too. But how prevalent is racism amongst where you guys, work at? And what I mean that is, I mean racism, and I also mean even from a discrimination standpoint, from just because you're a Black woman, not just a Black person, but even a woman. And that can be through. And what I mean by that is even you can see a Black man downgrading a Black woman, and you would think they would stick by you, but even in the workplace, that's not always the case. Key, have you seen that, at all in whether it's your workplace now or in the past? And then Lamisha, you can chime in. We'll go to Mika, and then we'll hit the next topic.
Well, I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. Honestly, I probably have been oblivious to it in the workplace. I'm a social worker, so it's in my old place of employment. It was a mixture of white women, Black women, and very few Black men. But I found myself being drawn more towards the being able to have those conversations with the Black women in at my job. Stuff that I just don't feel like my other counterparts would understand. And even having to advocate for Black families, because sometimes they give the white families a lot of chances to get themselves right before removing their kids. And then there's also, the Black family messes up maybe once, maybe twice, and they're already ready to snatch their kids. And you got to be like, no, you gave this family about 10 chances and they're still not getting it right. So in that part, I feel like I've had to advocate for the Black family. But I don't know, like, I feel like at my job, even now, like, I wouldn't know if my coworkers were racist. Like only if they posted it on social media or something like that, I wouldn't know, because I feel like everyone's so good at hiding it. You know, it's not exposed until something traumatic happens.
Yeah. It's more and more is coming out now. You're finding out who's
Right,
racist and who
right.
isn't now. You know, now that's for sure.
And
What about you?
people that you've had that back and forth relationship with the entire time you were at your job. Like, you've shared conversations, you've gone to lunch with them. Like, they know details about your life, you know details about them lives, except that one thing, that one factor.
Yeah.
Like, damn, you hated me the entire time.
You don't like me.
Yeah. Not you. You? Oh my God. I thought it'd been that person, not you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that is the system, the sneaky system of racism, is that I'd argue that there are quite a few white people that is so ingrained in our society. It's so regular that they themselves don't even know how to recognize it within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's those very people who say, I'm not racist, I got a black coworker. I got
a
we go to lunch.
Yeah, we got lunch, yeah.
She knows about my business. I can't be racist. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can be in a whole relationship with a black person and still not like them.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is the system that is racism, is that it's so a part of our society, is that I don't even think that a lot of people can recognize it within themselves without that ugly mirror in their face. And I think we're in mirror time. Like, people are starting to realize that even, you know, as color friendly as you think you are, you got a little bit of that in you too.
Yeah, I agree. Misha, you want to share anything about either something you've experienced or maybe something you've heard someone else experience in the workplace?
I'll bring up 2 points. One being when I was working in corrections, just the difference in how an African American gets dragged to medical for their treatment versus how a Caucasian comes in to get their treatment. So they both may come in drunk and belligerent, but the way they're handled or brought to get medical attention is totally different. The African American might come with a few additional bumps and bruises that they may expect you to not see or not document, but anything that wasn't there when I first saw you is going on paper, because it's not going to be my job at the end of the day. And the Caucasian may come in, he's had a few drinks, you know, his dad is so-and-so, and, you know, they get a little preferential treatment. So, like, just on that side of the fence, you know, you see and hear a lot of the racism, you know, front hand in that aspect. And then being a stay-at-home mom, before all this COVID stuff happened, you know, some days the boys may be in school. I want to go out to the mall, take the girls out. And, of course, most people know my breastfeeding journey was forever. Thank God it's finally over. But, like, I would get looks and comments, surprisingly, mostly from the African-American women in the mall or in the store. But that's because it's not really normalized in our community. Like, oh, can you take them in the bathroom? No. Do you eat in the bathroom? You know, that's what the dressing room is for. If I can't go to the dressing room, then we're going to cover up the best we can and they're going to eat where they got to eat. But I didn't feel as though it was normalized, so it was always an issue, you know, when it had to be done in public, or it was supposed to be shameful for me to have to feed my children in public.
Those are excellent points, and I'm glad you brought up the breastfeeding, because that's something we've talked about offline before. You know, it might have been some weeks or months ago, but that is so true that you get those looks, y'all get those looks, and like you said, now if it was a white lady, you know, she's not gonna get the same looks, and for it to be, like you said, even from someone of your own race, you know, you would think they would understand, you know, these things, but evidently they don't. So Mish, thanks for sharing that, 'cause that is so true. We got a question. We got it's been a lot of comments left, but we got our first question from someone you all know, Miss Yana, all the way from ATL. All the way from ATL. She wanted to ask, what about the experiences with other Black women in the workplace? What are your experiences with other Now, Yanni, you might have gave us another hour on this segment with other Black women in the workplace. Who wants to start?
Let me go.
Great question. Go ahead.
So I work in like the museum field, which is very white, right? Unless you work at a Black museum, which I do now, but for my whole career, it's always been that white organization. I'm always white. I'm the only Black face, not at the front desk or not cleaning the building. So I'm like the only one in like administrative or executive offices. So last year I started my new job at the current museum I'm at, at the Lewis Museum in Baltimore. It's none but Black people. It's the complete opposite. I've never worked with any Black people, so it's very different. And I'll never forget my first. I'm a senior staff member, so I run a few departments. And so my first day, I go in, and like I had never gotten so many icy stares, icy receptions. Like I remember getting a tour, and I had my badge, and someone who had started as an assistant in the special events department. Like I'm in charge of education, and she's a special events assistant, and she said, "Why she got a badge?" This is my first day. Why she got a badge? I mean, like in my little short experience, walking into like an all Black business or organization, you do not get the reception that you get when you go to another organization. My last job, when I first started, I got like 2 parties. I mean, a whole ass reception with like catering and a bar, all kinds. I get what this bitch doing with a name badge. And it was just another type of flavor like that I just wasn't used to. And then, over time, we got cool. But I do think that when you are a professional Black woman, it ain't a lot of you, right? Like, so you feel like your spot is the only spot. And so how dare this other professional Black woman come in here and try to be good too? So I think it's a lot of, there's not a lot of room for us. So let me fight off those who might be encroaching on my territory type of feel. But it wasn't a stark difference between going to work around a lot of women of color versus going to work at an organization where most of the people are white. Now, no, the differences don't stop there, obviously. And I'd argue that I probably got the reception for a different reason than to congratulate me. But it is really interesting, the type of reception that you get, that I got personally at one versus the other.
Thank you for sharing. Key, Mish?
I don't, honestly, I have not had any bad experiences working with other Black women. Like my very first job out of grad school, it was in PG County, so everybody was Black.
All Black everything.
All Black everything.
All Black. So we got along. I didn't have any. I was pregnant there. They threw me a baby shower. It was love. I wasn't even there for a full year. And then in my other job, I was in Anne Arundel County, and that's very different. It was, few of us. And we got along as best. I thought that we got along. We didn't have any conflicts, and we worked together well. Now, not to saying that anyone has, hasn't said anything negative about me or not to me or to someone else, but I've never had any issues I've never really had any issues at work. I'm trying to think.
That's good. Hopefully that stays that way then. That's good.
I'm only 6 years into being a social worker. Things can change fast.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. Mish, what about you, babe?
As a nurse, since I've been doing that, I don't think I've had really any issues as far as coworkers. I do remember having a director that was an African American woman, and she did feel as though, I guess because of her title, that she was so much more superior than everyone else. And lo and behold, she was one of the worst nurses ever. Like, she couldn't handle much of anything. If something came to her, she was pouring it back down on us to handle. So she just kind of tried to throw her title around, but she didn't last long because she didn't know what she was doing, to say, you know, just a little bit about it.
Got you. No, I appreciate that. And Yana, thanks for that question out there. That definitely is a great question. And I
You know,
appreciate
one
you guys
area
sharing.
that I do feel like,
go ahead, Kid.
I'm sorry, I do feel like that I get the most judgment is when I'm out, and I feel like I get it from people in general, like white people, black people, period, is when I'm out in public and I have all three of my kids with me. Like, I almost feel like people stare at me and are like, damn, she got 3 kids. Damn, they all look different. Damn, how many baby daddies she got? Like, I feel like I get those looks a lot when I have all 3 of them with me. And I just don't, I'm not, I don't want to say I'm insecure about it because, it's me. I already know it's just me, but I don't want to, project those type of things. I guess it's the insecurity onto, my kids. Like, let's just hurry up and get out of here, because I feel like people are staring at us, or I don't know. I just feel like when Black women are more, I think we get those looks more than, say, and also that I don't work. I get those that too. Like, I got all these kids, and maybe she don't work, and maybe she buying all these groceries, and she don't do things. Like, I feel like I get those type of looks, and I just don't feel like white women get those type of looks. Like, she's a stay-at-home mom. I feel like that's the automatic thought. She's a stay-at-home mom. Her husband is home, and she's taking care of.
How do you think I feel going in the store?
Oh, yeah.
All my ranges of kids, 16, 11. The twins throwing stuff out the cart, pulling stuff in the cart, one screaming, a shoe done fell, I done ran over it. Like, it's a whole field trip at the store. And I know, like, I'm getting looks like, what in the world? But I just let the circus continue because I can't stop.
Yeah, that's true, Mish.
I do think that now it's like in terms of society, larger families are looked at like, why you got so many kids? Like, people had kids back in the day because you needed somebody to work, right? Like, you needed people heading the farm and stuff. But now, because I have a classmate, she's white, but she has, like, I think 4 or 5 kids, and I think that when, like, her most recent child, she had posted, like, something like, people were like, you're having another kid? All right, I like kids. I want to have another one. Like, so it's like, but it wasn't, I can promise you that her reaction didn't stem from, oh, people going to think I'm unemployed and that I'm about to pull out a independence card to pay for the food. I think that is a discriminatory narrative that is automatically assigned to women with more than 2 kids. Even more than one child, if they look starkly different. Like, you already start to form, like, oh, I'm not seeing the kids. I have one father, and this is the kid. Like, already creating this person's, like, identity in your head just based off of a cart full of food and the 2 small unemployed friends that she can bring in with her. So it just really, added to the list, right, of dumb shit associated with discriminating against Black women.
Yeah. And you guys are helping, a lot of people. Like I said, I'm looking at the comments you're getting and different things. And, I guess this is Ashley Presley. I can say I appreciate just the comments that we're getting and people just, thank you guys for, talking and sharing. And because there are people out there, outside of our race that do want to, learn more, and they do want to understand, and, so that, because there's some people that's just oblivious. They might not understand, what we're going through, so all these things, all these platforms, all these things are helpful. Even if we help one person, is that we did our job. That's what it's all about. So, so with the last 20 minutes or so, I know we've been talking about some pretty serious stuff. I wanted to talk about this last subject, just from, actually, Key had a comment about it that made my mom think, and then from talking to the wife and looking at the different comments. But most know, but if you don't know, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett had an incident where Jada went outside of the marriage. Entanglement. There, thank you. Jada had an entanglement with August Alsina. So I want to get you guys' thoughts, and honestly, when I say we're going to talk about this, you can really share this whatever you feel about this subject. And what made me think about it is there's some people out there that are like, well, why did Jada do this? Some like, why didn't Will leave? Some like, well, August, I feel bad for him. Everyone has so many different opinions. So I just want to hear from the three of you, and just your thoughts on the whole Will, Jada, and August thing. Because and I'll just say this before because sometimes things happen in a marriage that people don't understand, and the first thing they want you to do is leave. And, you said those vows, and on the flip side of that, some people, want to see the downfall of you as well. So many different things I've seen about, but I'm going to step back. I don't know who wants to start this segment, but whoever wants to start this segment about the entanglement and just that whole situation with Will, Jada, and August. I digress. Sit back like this. You know what I'm saying? Hear what y'all got to say. Go ahead. Who wants to start? Go ahead, Mish. You start.
That's a real hot topic, but
it is.
My opinion is just pretty much, as far as I knew, that they had an open marriage to begin with. So what you allow is what'll continue. So if he was doing his thing, she was doing her thing, they come to a point where they break up, you really know they're going to be doing their own thing. So whatever works for them. So if they decide to stay together, if they want to keep getting entangled or go their separate ways, more power to them. But I just, thought that they always had like that open marriage type of thing. I mean, different strokes for different folks. It's not for me, but if that's what they choose to do, then so be it.
Yeah, that's what I said, Mish. Different strokes for different folks. That's the same thing I said. If it works for them, it works for them. Go ahead, Key. I'm going to let the wife be last. I know she got a lot to say.
No,
oh, yeah. Go ahead, Key.
She got her notepad ready.
Yeah.
After the whole Red Table talk, I didn't listen to August's interview. I didn't listen to it at all. But I listened to the Red Table.
Yeah.
I listened to that. And I just felt like at the end of the day, their marriage was real toxic. I mean, I feel like this probably was a norm for them. Like, Will's probably cheated on Jada. Jada's cheated on Will. They keep cheating on each other. And it's just been exposed this time. I mean, at the end of it, maybe they were joking. But for me, I was like, hell no. Don't even put that type of narrative out there. Bad marriage together. No, sir. No, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not. I feel like that's some ride or die shit. We gotta stick together because we're married, but we're gonna be, she said she was unhappy. I'm not sure if she was unhappy with herself or with her marriage, but we gotta stick together because we're married for 25 years. No, I'm not about to be in a marriage for 25 years and be unhappy for 20 of those damn years. It's not happening.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
But
and before my wife was, and that's a great, and actually that toxic comment was what made me say I gotta make this a topic. And you're right, and you don't want to just stay in it just because of what's going on. But I will say that, let me say, different church, different folks, and if they had an open marriage and that's what they wanted to do, and if they technically was separated at that time or whatever they were doing, whatever Jada said, I didn't listen to the whole thing either. But whatever Jada said, that's up to them, it's on them. But I had people talking about they feel bad for August, and Jada took advantage of August. I'm like, took advantage of? Oh, you're a grown man. How you get taken advantage of? My dad on her comment and said only issue was that August spilled the beans. Like you said, it wasn't anything that it wasn't anything that yeah, it wasn't a problem. It wasn't anything different that happened in the past. I guarantee it that they've done it many times before. Yeah. The only difference this time is that they didn't have August sign that non-disclosure agreement.
Loose lips.
August said that out.
He should kept his mouth. If he had kept his mouth shut, we would know nothing about their affair. Not their affair. Their entanglement.
Their entanglement. There you go. That's it. Go ahead, D'Amico.
I did think it was a little uncomfortable. Okay, I watched the whole thing, right? I didn't watch his interview. I watched the Red Table Talk. Only because his eyes look like I just cried eyes, and so I was just curious. But the amount of detail that we now know about somebody else's marriage made me uncomfortable, right? Because I don't feel like that's what marriages are. Like and that so many people, married and non-married people, had so much of an opinion about what they're doing in their lives, like totally like invested, like, oh, Jada's X amount of years his senior, and he's going through these. I'm like, these are 3 grown people who made this 3 grown decisions to do what they did, and now it's damage control time.
Older woman put it on. She put it on. That's all what. Older woman.
And Jada got back with Will, and they weren't together. That's it.
I mean, it read like a regular ass type of situation that I'm unfamiliar with. Like, nothing about it was unique. You know, like, you hear stories about people like, oh, we went together, we not together, this is, you know, my new boo. Oh, but then y'all got, like, I've seen it before. So I don't know why I was just treating it like a pair of new Jordans, like we ain't never seen them before.
Yeah. I think that was my whole thing. I just wanted to talk because I'm like, it's nothing really we haven't seen before. And I think that was my whole thing, just reading the comments and just looking at people as a fresh. I'm like, some of y'all been going through worse than that, and y'all ain't even married to the person and been through the ringer. And I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Everything.
So it's like, why y'all? Yeah, so you've been staying there 10 years because you didn't want to start over, and now you mad at Will and Jada, you know, or man. So that's what my whole thing is like. What's the big deal? If that's what they want to do. Because like my man Darius on here, is second not cheating. If they got an open marriage and that's what they want to do, then that's fine with them. But like you said, it's not for everybody.
I think the problem was that black people have put, and then this is just generally not a good thing to do, putting someone else's relationship
that's what
idolizing somebody else's marriage for. Like, so then when you find out they're human, right? Then they fall, and then it's like, oh well, Jada took advantage, and Will is hurting, y'all. He hurt, and look at his eyes, like.
He might have been hurting, but he know what he signed up for.
But look how Jada is the bad person. Like she's
Great point.
Wrong. Like she slipped out on Will.
Yep.
Then slept with this little young boy, broke August's heart. Now she's
this poor Jezebel, this poor black lady.
Yes. August and Will are now the victims.
Yeah, they were definitely trying to make this victims. I will say that, but hey, I'm.
Yeah, they fun. They even had black women turning on Jada.
Yeah, they did. You said.
Even had black women turning on her, going, "She did this to him. She did." I'm like, "Y'all not forget. He is in this together. Like you, like,
right.
Don't turn her into the villain." I've seen that meme when it was like the villain, the movie villain, and the villain in real life. And she's the villain in real life, and he's the August Alsina is the movie victim. Nah, how are they always just messy? Didn't hide their loose ends, and now on this slow news day, all we got to talk about is what somebody else did in their marriage. But at the end of the day, I felt like she was reacting to something. She was unhappy for a reason, so there has to be some sort of ownership on the other side.
Yeah.
Like,
he could pick that up on the language. Oh, yeah. Like, that's the language I picked up, boy.
Huh?
Mm-hmm. What did she say to him? He's like, now I feel like I gotta get you back. And
yes.
So she's like, well, you've already done that.
And that's why I said this shit is toxic. Because they on some get back shit. Like, they're just trying to get back at each other. And that's why I'm saying, like, the whole 20 year, like, you know, was it 25 years? Like, how many years were you unhappy?
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wanted to get y'all perspective though, and my dad said that they said that Jada took advantage of August because he had mental issues. So they were trying to make it, August has these mental issues and he's going through this, and Jada, I'm like, listen, he a grown man. I asked him, I said, did she get with him when he was a little boy or something that I didn't know about? I said, I thought he was a grown man. I said, why are we making excuses for all the South Cena? His album record come out. He ain't crazy either.
And he got a hit song.
He just got a new
It's called
song.
Entanglement. Come on now. Let's be real. Let's be real about what's going on.
Not to make light of mental health, but
not at all. And I'm glad you said that. And Jenny Ball, I take mental health very, 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 very seriously, even more now than I ever have. I talk about it all the time, so I don't want anybody to think I'm taking it lightly of that. But at the same time, we can't just throw mental health out there in a situation like that and say she took advantage of him because of the mental health. Like, come on, y'all. Like, so that's what I'm saying. Let's just get get all the information, but or not, because it's not our business at the same time. But like Lamisha said, I think she's something that is different strokes for different folks. So, hey, I mean, it is what it is. You might like turkey, I like chicken. It is what it is. I mean, so at the end of the day. So man, but man, this was fun, y'all. This was fun. I hope everybody out there enjoyed it. When you guys get off, you can look at the comments and people have been sharing it and all that. I appreciate again you three. I just hit y'all up a few days ago and y'all was right on it. Once we changed the date, so I appreciate y'all three. Jumping on here and dropping everything. Anything else that any of y'all want to say about any particular thing? Anything? Everybody good? Breonna Taylor. Please don't forget her name. Let's keep fighting, y'all, because something's got to change. It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. The killer, he at the beach just enjoying himself, and we still mourning her loss. So let's keep on doing the peaceful protest and doing what we're supposed to do, and using our voices and our platform to be heard. So again, Lamisha, Key, D'Amica, I appreciate y'all being on the Real Sports Fan Podcast, Season 3, Episode 20. Appreciate everybody out there listening. If you catch us afterwards, make sure you share it. It'll be on YouTube in a couple of days. Again, it's your boy Lance Wilson, Real Sports Fan Podcast. We out of here. Love y'all.
See y'all.
Take care.
Bye.
Peace. See ya.